Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of DC Talks. I am your host, Drew Kreisman, and with me, as always, for these is my brother, Ira Kreisman. And on this episode, we continue our conversation on the 1995 classic of American cinema, the Power Rangers movie. When last we left our heroes, they had just been teleported to the alien planet of Phaedos, or whatever, which very much just looks like a rocky beach in maybe Northern California or Southern Oregon or something.
Right. Well, they are in Australia,
right,
for the shoot. But it's very beautiful, but it is just a rocky beach.
Yeah, it doesn't look especially alien, despite how awed Kimberly is by it. I mean, she did her best. So our heroes begin to search around. We mentioned that they found a big dead thing last time. Just big dead skeleton thing. And so they're, clearly not quite sure what to do, and they're in a dangerous area, right? And then we get a little scene transition back to Earth and our villains, who are really the stars of this movie.
Ivan Ooze really is, the centerpiece here. He has taken over an old warehouse, presumably in the abandoned warehouse district of Angel Grove, where they have all the monster fights.
Right.
There's a keep out toxic chemicals sign right there on the chain link fence, so we know this is a bad place. And Ivan Ooze makes an excellent observation. He says, taking over the world is one thing. Finding good help to run it for you, that's the killer. Which is, we talk about this all the time, right? When a villain takes over, what are they going to do? It's the Game of Thrones problem. You're going to rule over the ashes?
Right.
What do we do next? So Ivan Ooze is already thinking ahead to personnel issues.
It's almost always the advisors that end up getting people killed in Game of Thrones as well. And yeah, as great as Ivan Ooze is, he's got Goldar and Mordant at his side.
Right.
And I love that they don't even take it as an insult whatsoever. It goes right over their heads. He's like, man, bunch of fools I'm surrounded by. And they're like, yeah. They're great henchmen, dude. They really are.
So Ivan explains that he is going to recruit the parents of Angel Grove. And Goldar says, no offense, boss, but they might find you a little disgusting.
I love that Goldar just assumes that Ivan Ooze is just going to ask nicely. That's great. I don't think they're going to go for it, boss.
Ivan grabs Mordant's little piggy nose, and I love that these are guys in suits, right? That's really digging into the tokusatsu tradition.
Right.
So even though Goldar's mouth moves a little bit when he speaks, Mordant's moves almost not at all.
Right.
And it's fine. I still get it.
Sure.
And if they had tried to do it in CGI, it would have looked just as bad as the robot fight that's going to happen at the end of this movie.
It's rough, but we'll get there.
Yeah. So Ivan grabs Mordant's little piggy nose and he says, you forget, I'm a master of disguise. And Mordant says, how could I forget? I never knew.
I'm telling you, he's the best character in this movie, other than Ivan Ooze, obviously. But Mordant's got some of the best immediate quips, man. Just I didn't know, so all right, fair enough. Good on you, buddy.
Ivan explains, first, I'll turn them into zombies, then order them to dig up my ectomorphicon titans. So a little more signposting there. Excellent,
right.
Nicely done.
Sure.
I do feel like the movie does not always trust its young audience. We've said ectomorphicon titans a couple times. Mm-hmm. I guess there's an organic sense here because it's, okay, these are my next steps. It's not just reminding the audience, but we're going to get to some just reminding the audience here in a bit that I find kind of annoying.
Yeah.
So he says, I'm going to do it by showing them the wonders of being wicked with a little help from Ivan's ooze. And he zaps the machinery and it starts making ooze because that's what machines do when you zap them with purple lightning.
Right. As everyone knows. And again, I think I mentioned on one of our previous episodes that I had some of this stuff that they made, some purple ooze stuff, which is funny considering its purpose in the movie.
Right.
Now let's actually sell it to kids. Wait a minute.
And there was ooze, I think you mentioned this before too. There was ooze all over the place. I had a He-Man castle figure thing that it would ooze He-Man. That was what happened in the show, so that's what you did with the toys. But then you would have ooze all over your castle and over your He-Man figures, and it was kind of gross. And I
don't know what this 90s obsession with ooze was, but we all experienced it together if we were there.
Yeah, it was not pleasant.
Yeah.
All right, we cut back to Phaedos. There's a lot of back and forth here that I feel like didn't need to be quite so quick.
Yeah, they could have just edited these things. I think what it did for me as a younger viewer is made the movie feel a lot longer than it is, because I was watching it now as an adult. I was like, man, I remember a lot more happening here. I remember them being on Phaedos for like a lot longer, and it's pretty quick. They get to the point pretty immediately. But I do appreciate that, honestly, in retrospect, that they don't kind of pad it out, as it were.
So Kimberly is the most pensive of our heroes right now. She's really worried about Zordon. She stops and she's looking at the ocean, and Tommy comes up behind her. Tommy and Kimberly were in a relationship at this point in the show, and I'm pretty sure they're meant to be in the movie also. Yeah,
they do a lot of unspoken looks at each other that make it clear they have a special relationship. And so, yeah, I actually think that part's handled pretty well.
Tommy asks if she is okay, and she says, I was just thinking about Zordon, everything we've been through together. And Tommy says something vaguely reassuring. But the thing I like is that he says, they're going to send that slime ball back into the sewer he crawled out of. All right, Tommy.
Tommy and Rocky appear to have gotten the majority of the pun budget.
Okay.
I've noticed there's a fight coming up here in a minute, we'll say, where Tommy rattles off like 5 in a row.
Okay.
Just like,
right.
Man.
And I do appreciate this moment between them. I like the reminder that Zordon is dying and that they're really worried about him.
Yeah.
It feels very organic here. It's going to feel a lot less organic.
Yeah, I know. I already know what you mean. Yep.
So they're walking along, presumably going in the direction of the great power, and suddenly the Tangu arrive. And I want to point out that the Tangu flew through space almost as fast to this distant planet as the Power Rangers teleported there.
Yeah.
That's some impressive flying.
Yeah.
My God. Flying through space.
Yeah. Magical lungs, presumably, or a beach situation. Don't know how that works.
They can also talk on the moon, which has been a thing in Power Rangers forever.
Sure.
The moon might have an atmosphere. I don't know. It's not clear.
It's fine. I'm down for all of it.
So we get a cool fight scene. The superheroes don't have their powers, but they still stand up to the foot soldiers.
They hang in, but they do a lot of getting their asses kicked here, which I think does a good job of showing off, again, how impressive the Tangu warriors are. And this scene is much, much better choreography. I've been meaning to talk about this, because actually one of the strengths of Power Rangers, the show even has pretty damn good choreography. And a lot of that was JDF, by the way. But that's why I pointed out earlier in the movie that like the very first fight scene they do is just awful, because it was kind of shocking. It's not often groundbreaking, and it's certainly not, Tony Jaa or Bruce Lee or anything, but this is a really just well laid out, clear, easy to follow fight scene. In fact, all of the ones on Phaedos are, and I like these ones.
The one moment that I want to point out that I think is really cool is that Billy gets this great moment where one of the Tengu is flying at him and he flips off a rock and the Tengu smashes right into it. They don't always win by punching the bad guys. They often win by being clever. And I've always really liked that about Power Rangers.
Right.
So even though they're not helpless without their powers, Billy has this weird line where he says, the funny thing about Morphin, you don't appreciate it until you can't do it anymore. What?
Huh?
You didn't appreciate it when you had superpowers? That seems unlikely.
Right? You just got, it's a weird thing to say. And it's also weird that he like poses it as a question. It's like a knock-knock thing where like Rocky has to be like, what? And you're like, no. Dude, like now is not the time for this conversation. Also, I don't think that what you're saying makes any sense. But I get they're trying to build of like, reminding us that they can't. That's probably what that line is for, right? But that's,
sure.
Again, I think not trusting your audience enough to...
Yeah. They didn't need to do that. We know they don't have powers. Even as so, what we said it was 95, so I was maybe 14. So you would have been 9 or 10. We got it, right?
Yeah.
We understood. I understood more at 14 than you did.
Sure.
At 10, obviously, but what a weird thing to say.
Totally.
They're getting their butts kicked. They know they're getting their butts kicked. Kimberly gets grabbed by a Tangu and is hauled into the air, which is kind of scary.
Yeah, the physics on that are funny too, because it's like you'd have to be much larger. I will point out, while we're being pedantic about some things, the wings on the Tangu warriors, they would not be able to fly the way they're flapping them. Not even close. And they certainly wouldn't be able to carry a human being. But it's funny.
Yeah,
so who
they're
cares?
just arms with wings on them because it's people in suits. And I really like, even though some of it is silly Power Rangers, people in suits, I appreciate the people in suits quite a bit in this movie.
There's actually some phenomenal Tangu acting here in a minute that I'm going to highlight.
So she's hauled into the air. They're too strong. We need our powers. And then suddenly, this goddess of a woman jumps down off of a cliff, throws her robe off. She's wearing almost nothing. She looks amazing. And she starts kicking the shit out of the Tangu. She's got this staff that she uses to smash him here and there. She pulls it apart. She swings it as two different sticks. She puts it back together. This is a cool fight scene too. She reminds me of the 80s fantasy, maybe late 70s, early 80s fantasy movies.
I literally was going to say to you that she came straight out of the 80s. Like, everything else about this movie is so 90s, and then she comes, like, right out of Beastmaster or...
Yes.
Right?
Beastmaster is exactly what I thought of. Beastmaster and Conan. What was there was the one with the glaive thingy. Yeah. Maybe Willow.
Sure.
Wow. Maybe even Star Wars in a way.
Yeah, it's great. Like, she's just completely out of a different fantasy universe. But at the same time, if you're familiar with that stuff, you feel like you immediately get who this, like, Amazonian queen warrior woman is. It's just immediate, and it's awesome. She's great.
Maybe a little bit of Xena. Actually, her entry and the way she looks and the way she kicks ass makes this place feel more alien to me. It's not the landscape. It's not Australia outback. It's this person is from 3 decades ago or whatever.
Right.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And this is, we should mention now, this is Dulcea, the person who read the opening scroll. So that's also kind of interesting. And also that this is another one of those characters who doesn't appear in anything else.
Right.
And
she's definitely not Ninjor.
Right. And so another one where you get to kind of wonder about what the rest of her story might be or could have been, because this is all we get. And she left an impression, actually, after our first episode when I tweeted it out. Somebody responded on Twitter to something I had said about how Kimberly had been their first crush as well, and that is at least right up until they met this queen. And I said,
fair enough,
I totally understand. But she's very memorable, and she leaves an impression. And I love that she's presented as sort of a main character of the story, even though she's not in it very long.
Right. So I talked about how awesome she looks, but she really isn't wearing much. It's basically a green bikini, kind of.
Right.
It's got the long sort of loincloth thing in front. I don't know. Is that exploitative at all? Is it, hey, look at this almost naked lady in this kid's show? Or is it meant to show off her badassness? Because when a Marvel hero takes his shirt off,
right,
it's at least as much, hey, look at how awesome this guy looks, but also, isn't he handsome? So is it some of that? I'm not quite sure what to make of that. Because we never get, like, the camera never lingers on her ass or anything.
Right. No, I think it's kind of a combination of all those things we've talked before about how sometimes you just fall a little bit into the trap of tropes. And, a lot of times throughout history of fantasy storytelling, these kind of Amazonian warrior women are presented wearing very little clothing for, why you would do that when some armor would probably help you stay alive. We talked about that, I think, for the first time really in Final Fantasy IV about how unpractical that is. But then again, there's a lot of, like you mentioned, things that are unpractical that in the fantasy or science fiction or whatever that you're showing. I do think that, yes, she's supposed to be a beautiful woman and we're supposed to kind of admire her physique and all of that. But I also think, like you said, it's more going for that 80s Amazon woman thing, and that was just what they looked like, and I doubt they put a whole lot of extra thought into it. I certainly think you'd be hard-pressed to claim that Power Rangers, either this movie or as an IP, is particularly exploited from a sexual, like publicly, like does a wink and a nod about too much sexy stuff. Like it really, like it's almost actually shocking to see this much skin in a Power Rangers thing. But I think the character is so unsexualized. Like it's not about that at all. It is kind of, nobody mentions it. Nobody, like if they had any of the boy characters, like look at her and go, there's one moment with Adam, I guess, in a minute, but even that is so small, so I think they're fine here, but
okay.
Yeah, I don't think the point of it is to go, ooh, even though, a lot of us did see this when we were 12-year-old boys and probably did go, ooh, but that's maybe kind of okay too sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, let's not get ourselves too worked up.
Sure, yeah. So she takes her staff apart and whirls it about, and it creates this awful screeching noise, and it drives the Tangu off. And our heroes are appreciative of her help. Rocky says, "That was amazing, thanks." And he holds his hand out. Because, again, the golden retriever thing. Right. Golden retriever energy. He's very earnest.
Yeah.
And I appreciate, we talk about how it's kind of simple and kind of silly, but there's something to be said for the earnest heroism of these characters that I really appreciate. So he holds his hand out, and she turns around and smacks it with the staff, and he looks so hurt.
I know. Hey.
That's not very nice.
But we're good guys.
Dulcea says, "If you want to thank me, go back to wherever it is you came from." And they ask about the great power, and she says, "Yes, it's here. The ground is littered with the bones of those who have tried for it and failed." And Tommy is very certain. He says, we are different. We won't fail." And Dulcea kicks his ass.
Yeah.
She knocks him on his backside and puts the staff right at his throat.
Yeah.
And she says, leave before it's too late. And she doesn't realize that they can't. They don't have power to leave.
Right. This is one place where they could have fleshed this out, I think, a little better. But again, I don't really need it. Like, they could have had a much longer conversation here. And there's a part of me that would be interested in that. But there's another part of me that appreciates that they just get basically to, hey, Zordon, Aisha kind of starts to very, very haphazardly interjects, like, our leader, Zordon, like, who? No one talks that way, but whatever. And Dulcea hears the name, and that completely changes the conversation. She goes from get out of here to, yes, I will take you where you need to go, like in a heartbeat. But I'm fine with that, because we don't need to stop and do a whole thing here. Let's get on with the adventure.
Right. I do appreciate this for emphasizing the fact that Zordon is known on a lot of different planets for being this wise, benevolent Morphin Master character. And I think that's pretty great. And Dulcea turns out is an old ally of his. In my headcanon, they were Power Rangers together once, thousands of years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And she's familiar with Ivan Ooze. So, yeah, that part I do love, that it hints to this long history, but they don't flesh it out. It's one of the few times where they go with the subtle choice, and I think it really pays off. So
Dulcea, knowing that Zordon is dying and Ivan Ooze is free, agrees to help. She says, "If we don't hurry, your planet is doomed. Follow me." And then we get a cool shot of them walking through the wilderness of Australia.
A couple of nice little bits. I was making fun of them earlier for looking at a very basic rocky beach and being like, wow, what a beautiful planet. But this actually, there's some pretty nice visuals here.
We cut to a scene with Zordon and Alpha. Zordon is proving that he really is a good dude. He's worried about the Rangers, and he asks Alpha to try to do something so they can look in on them. Maybe there's something I can do help. And Alpha says, technobabble, we might be able to see them on the viewing globe.
Let's turn on the TV, see if they're there. One mild correction I have for you, Zordon is a good interdimensional dude.
All right, fair enough.
I don't want your disrespect here.
Hey, well, so I'm going to point out a thing. Okay, all right.
Sorry.
We're going to get into the interdimensional talk here in a second.
Yeah.
Now we get a really weird and lovely scene with Ivan
This
Ooze.
is great.
So Ivan Ooze has divested himself of most of his alien bits. He still has his sharp teeth and his purple tongue, but he now looks like a carnival character. He's dressed up as a wizard.
Carnival clown wizard thing. It's like maybe not horrifying, but it's also horrifying. I don't know. Some people are fine with clowns, but this is nope, not okay. This is nightmare fuel.
Guys and girls and guys, gather round and feast your eyes. I promise you all, you just can't lose when you've got your own supply of Ivan's Ooze.
Oh man!
And he's set up a booth somewhere. And he's selling his Ivan's Ooze, except he's giving it away. And he's already got an audience. He's got a bunch of kids watching him because, hey, look at that creepy dude. This is the 90s. Let's go see what he's up to.
Right. Giving out slime.
We love one of the
slime.
Kids says, practically, what do we do with it?
Right.
And Ivan says, this is the only time Ivan does his Dr. Seuss impression. He says, show it to your parents. Show it to your friends. When you've got your ooze, the fun never ends. That is not an answer, Ivan Ooze.
Right.
What the hell?
This is actually a great question for that entire decade and that whole generation. What we were talking about. Why do we have this stuff? What is the point of... Even Silly Putty was like, you can kind of make stuff with it, but after a while, it's just a ball of goop. What are we doing with this?
And he doesn't answer because he's not going to tell them what it's for. That's not the point.
Right.
But and we're right to question it, right? But it's also weird and gross. And Fred is in the crowd, the kid who likes the Power Rangers.
Who
and
apparently
he's
has
rolling
been friends
his eyes
with them forever and we've never met before. Like those multiversal things where they just know each other.
Yep. And he gets to be the one who is skeptical in the crowd.
Right.
And one of the kids opens a pot of the stuff and is fiddling with it. He says, this is kind of gross.
Yeah.
Ivan says, you may have heard the phrase, looks can be deceiving. I'm sure that when you've tried it, you all will be believing. What? Tried it? Tried it what? Am I supposed to eat it? Then believing what? What are you talking about?
Why is he... And also, like, this is a group of, like, 12 to 14, 15-year-olds. Are they really that into the rhyming thing that you're doing now? I don't know what this is, but I love it. It's horrifying. And then when he says, and did I mention it's free? I was like, dude, you should have started there. Like, that was the easiest one. There's this great joke in that old show. Do you remember that show, Hanging with Mr. Cooper?
I do remember that show, Hanging with Mr.
Remember
Cooper.
That show? And I can't remember the full context of it, but one of Mr. Cooper's friends was telling him he should give away a free sample of, I think he was giving lessons for something. And he's like, that's never going to work. And then she hollers at somebody in the next room and she goes, hey, would you like a free? And he comes in and just, yeah, what is it? I'll take 2 of them. Just, it's free? Yeah. Oh, well then for sure I'll take one.
So I feel like at least part of this is Ivan Ooze flexing his charming political muscles.
Yeah, if there's a comment in this movie at all, it really is in this scene about a little bit of propaganda and how easy it is to just kind of get people to go along with something that seems fun.
He's bamboozling them with a little bit of grossness and a little bit of rebellion. And I wonder if he would actually be one of those evil leaders who would be like a Palpatine, who would be able to do it and then hold it for a couple decades. Because he talked about needing good help also. And if we had more of Ivan Ooze, would he actually be able to control a planet and launch attacks from it or something?
Right.
His last bit here is, take it home in boxes, take it home in cases. If your parents try to stop you, just throw it in their faces. And the kids love that. They're into it.
God.
It's, teenagers with attitude, I guess.
Yeah,
except
Gen
they're being
Xers and hating
suckered.
your parents, I guess.
All right, here we get to some dialogue that did not need to happen. Back on Phaedos, we're walking across the beach. Billy says, Dulcea, where are you taking us? And she says, you shall know soon enough. Just tell him. What are you doing? Just say it.
Although I will say, and I would probably ask this question too. I thought about this line as well. And my thinking is like, what could she have said that they would have understood? Other than we're going, beyond that mountain over there or whatever. Like, if you've never been on planet Phaedos, what was she going to say? Oh, we're going to the Shermalax region, just beyond the river of Thormatov. You have no idea where you are. So on the one hand, she's being unnecessarily mysterious. On the other hand, where are you taking us? The answer is to the great power. Shut up and go where you're told.
And then Kimberly says, we have to hurry. Zordon can't last much longer. At this point, we know. Two scenes ago, we had a thing with him dying and worrying about you. Yeah. We get that you're worried. You don't have to say it every scene.
Yeah, cut that whole scene. You and I are cutting that whole scene out.
I would keep the scene because I like the visuals. I would cut the dialogue. There's no need for the voiceover.
It can just be more walking here.
Yeah, and this reminds me of 80s fantasy stuff too, because we get the scene of them walking across the beach, and then they're walking through the outback, and it's just a change of scenery, a change of scenery, a change of scenery. And this reminds me of Star Wars, especially the original Star Wars movies, where you would sometimes get just scenes of them moving through the landscape a couple times before they get where they're going.
Even like the screen wipe transitions are similar, which I think is really cool. I think that was done on purpose. And I think this is the best quote, if you're trying to be that person, technical part of the film. There's a lot of stuff in here that's really good. I mentioned the fight choreography. There's some good cinematography. I think this stuff is presented very well. Yeah, I like this part a lot. And it holds up.
So they do end up at the ancient ruins of the Ninjetti temple, which she could have said on the beach, but whatever. I get your point.
Again, what was that going to mean to them? I'm taking you to the ancient ruins of the Ninjetti temple. Oh, I know where that is. I used to go to the McDonald's right by there. You know what I mean? Like, what are they?
I used to play there as a kid.
Yeah. Right. You have no idea what planet. Your first time on this planet, you weirdos.
Right. And on we talk about in science fiction the problem of planets with single biomes. Hoth is a frozen planet. Fine. But it's a planet. Shouldn't there be other stuff going on there?
Right.
And part of that is so that when we're on Hoth, we know what to expect.
Right.
But from a biodiversity standpoint, from a different latitude and longitude perspective, it doesn't make any sense. So we're on a tiny part of the planet Phaedos. Who knows what the other continents are like? They probably look a lot like the continents on our planet.
Sure.
It's
right.
Whatever. It's fine. This set, though, is super cool.
It's great, isn't it?
This is a big practical set. They've essentially come to, like I said, the ancient ruins. So there's standing rocks. Some of them are obviously built that way. It's in this narrow valley with two giant rock walls on either side. There's a green screen beyond that looks beautiful. You can see the monolith in the background, surrounded by jungle, and a beautiful sunset.
Mm-hmm.
It really is nice. And I talked before about how they really use a combination of all the special effects. So some of them are practical, some of them are people in suits. They built this big old set. The CGI ones are the ones that fall down the most.
Oh, yeah. They're brutal.
And so I really appreciate some of the practical sets they've got. They found that construction site in Sydney to work in. They found that old abandoned building to have Ivan's workshop in. And they built this really cool set. And there's another one they built when they get to the monolith. And so even though the CGI effects don't work out that great, the fact that they use lots of different kinds of effects, I think really helps the movie. So she explains that this is the Ninjetti temple, like I said, and she walks to the edge and points at the monolith. Beyond the Neola jungle is the monolith. Inside awaits the power of the universe. It is heavily guarded. No one has ever survived.
A little more overselling of the stakes. We talked about that last time. And it's the great. No one has ever survived, which is like. And then there are some pretty good fights coming up, but I sort of feel like, come on, there's nobody else in the galaxy or the universe or whatever, how many morphological and interdimensional beings there are out there, and these 6 teenagers were the only people who... And I get that they're special.
Right.
Well, and they do a little bit, we're going to get to it, but kind of like they're meant to have them. They are the Power Rangers, and it's the power of the Power Rangers. So, fair enough. But it's like, then why were you even letting other people try?
Right. Or did they not ask for her help, maybe? Or maybe she chose not to help them, and that's why they died? It is a bit... Yeah, it's overstating it a bit, especially when after 30 years of Power Rangers, there's so many different kinds of Power Rangers all across the universe.
Right. So,
So it does overstate it a bit.
Yeah. Also,
it's fine.
Ira, what is a Ninjetti?
An alien ninja.
Thank you.
A ninja who is from Phaedos. Yeah, it's not clear. Power Rangers...
Why not just use the word ninja? What is this thing? It's
because,
fun, but okay, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Power Rangers tends to go through a variety of themes, right? And so sometimes the theme of this particular set of powers is dinosaurs. Sometimes it's mythological beings. Sometimes it's race cars. And sometimes it's a D&D class like knights or ninjas or samurai or what have you.
Sure.
So, yeah, this time it was just ninjas. It's been ninjas before. It will be ninjas again.
Sure.
Yeah. And because it was the movie, they called them Ninjetti instead of ninja.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Whatever. It's Power Rangers. So Dulcea, after having just said nobody else has ever survived, says, "You were chosen by Zordon. I have faith in his wisdom. We will call upon the sacred animals of the Ninjetti to help." So there's a little bit of it. Maybe not all ninjas have sacred animals.
Yeah, but again, it's like, why? Whatever. It's like you said, it's Power Rangers, and moving on.
All right, now we cut back to Angel Grove. Fred's dad comes home. He comes into the kitchen where Fred has put his free sample of Ivan's ooze on a counter. He takes it.
Gets into it. Like, what,
yeah.
What? Is that what people do?
He does sniff it first, at the very least. He opens it up and he gives it a sniff, like, what the hell is this? But then he sticks his hand in it.
I don't. Okay. And what's actually the most ridiculous part of all of this to me is that, then he becomes a zombie and he walks outside, and all of the parents in the neighborhood apparently have immediately put their hands into their kids'
at
slime
the same
ooze.
time.
Yeah.
So is this just it's Power Rangers roll with it, or is there's more magic in the ooze that draws people to it? Like you can, as fan fiction writers, we're always looking for, this was a movie convenience.
Yeah.
We wanted to get across in 20 seconds exactly what's going on. But if you're going to be a fan fiction writer and you want to expand on it, what do? Well, Ooze's personality, his charisma, radiates from the ooze, and people are drawn to him even though he's gross.
Or maybe this is a truly sci-fi, like Orwellian commentary that they just subtly snuck in there. Some kind of weird, like everybody in Angel Grove gets home at the exact same time, goes immediately to the counter because they're all programmed drones and they have to... Anything that their child has, immediately they mess around with it because nobody trusts their children in this horrible dystopia. And that's why they were so easily turned into zombies by the mastermind Ivan Ooze, who knew that they would immediately stick their hands in the purple goo.
Also, they're a bunch of morons because after 2 years of their town being continually attacked by alien monsters, they're still not showing any sort of caution.
No defenses whatsoever.
Good Lord. So I mentioned, why don't the Power Rangers have a relationship with the mayor or the police or something? I was flipping through Power Rangers on Netflix a night or two ago, and there's an episode where the mayor shows up and gives them the key to the city or whatever.
Sure, that'll help.
Whatever. All right, we cut now to Alpha and Zordon. Alpha has managed to turn on the news because apparently they just didn't have a television in the power chamber. Whatever.
Sure.
The news is talking about the missing parents. And then suddenly Ivan Ooze gets into the feed. This reminds me a lot of the
Joker?
Tim Burton Batman. Yeah. Where they're doing the news feed, and then he cuts in with all your beauty and hygiene supplies have been laced with chemical X or whatever.
Right.
It's kind of scary. It's undercut by the fact that the feed is bad and we're looking at it on a globe.
Yeah.
He does say, "Are you bored with your work? Are you bored with your life? Then come on down and let's get sticky." So, again, commentary on boring old life in Angel Grove, I guess.
Yeah. Apparently everyone's getting home at the exact same time, and they're so bored they have to play with their kids' slime.
Ew. All right, now we're back to Phaedos and the Ninjetti Temple. There are some interviews. I can't remember if I mentioned this yet, but I watched a behind-the-scenes set of interviews with a lot of the actors and the director and the stunt guy and some of the stunt actors. And there's some talk about they shot a lot of scenes with talking and meditation and training that ended up not in the movie. So there might have been more here, like you were talking about, but they are moving it's an action movie. The director actually talked about it as being kind of like Wizard of Oz. We're going from point A to point B, and all these obstacles get in the way. And it's how do you overcome each individual obstacle, which was cool. So she's going to find them their spirit animals. And it's a neat, like I said, it's a big old set. It's a neat scene. The campfire's going. She pours the mystical sand of the Ninjetti
Sure.
into her hands, and she turns around and she explains, "Buried deep within each of us is an animal spirit waiting to be released. Close your eyes and look deep inside."
Now, hold on a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
If there's an animal spirit buried deep within each of us, not just deep within each of them, again, why didn't she help some of the other people that came and died? She's like, I could have saved those suckers, but they didn't have their animal. I didn't tell them what it was.
Right. Or maybe like the Ninjetti teachings are sacred and you only get to do it if Zordon trusts you. Or it's not clear, is it?
I could believe any number of explanations for it. I just think it's hilarious that they don't give... They make a big deal out of the fact that no one has survived this trip several times, but you give us several reasons to believe that it's because Dulcea just didn't give a damn, which is funny. But anyway, I do like this scene a lot, so please continue.
I also want to point out that each of these characters already has 2 animals associated with them.
Right.
They've got the dinosaur/behemoth animals from the first season, and they've got the Thunderzord animals from the second season. And now they're about to get a third animal with the Ninjetti. And is that relevant? Is it interesting? It is if you're a fan fiction author. You know, why does Billy get to be the Triceratops and the unicorn and the wolf? I don't know. Let's make something up.
Sure.
And so I kind of dig that it, like you said, it doesn't explain it. It doesn't really need to, but there's a lot going on. And if you want to, you can play with it. So she blows the mystical Ninjetti sand into the fire, and the fire goes whoosh. And suddenly they're all clad in cool ninja costumes. Yeah. I think these costumes look great.
I do too, man. Now, I know I'm a mark for this stuff, and I've always loved ninjas. And when I was in college and Ninjas versus Pirates became a big thing, I was appalled by the number of people who chose pirates. I just don't understand those people on any kind of fundamental level. I mean, pirates are fun and cool and great and stuff, but they're not ninjas. Like, I don't even understand. So anyway, I agree. I think that these look great. I think the primary colors have never looked better.
Right.
These are some of my favorite Power Ranger outfits, and actually my least favorite thing about them is that they don't wear them often enough because they have to morph into their better suits and stuff later. And I like when they just have the cloth ninja stuff. Like, it just looks cool. It's good design.
It is. It really is. It's like you said, they're all the bright, bold colors, and they've got gold accents. All of them have white sashes for belts, except for Tommy, because he's the White Ranger, has a black sash. It looks fantastic. I like it a lot. And they've all got the power coins in their chests, which have changed to their new animal.
Right.
So Dulcea is very proud of them. It took no time to do this, right? We didn't get any sort of training montage.
Right.
Whatever.
Right. I blow the sand. You have an animal now. And
they are already proven superheroes, so that's fine.
Fair enough.
So she goes up and she talks to each of them about their animal.
Yeah.
Aisha, you are the bear, fierce and unstoppable. And the look on Aisha's face is just so giddy. She is so proud.
Oh, it's fantastic. Have you seen, this might be a good time to cut in because this episode has been almost entirely asides and there's no way of saving it now.
Sidebar to sidebar.
Entirely. A side quest within a side quest on a side quest, if you will. But
Final Fantasy 14.
Totally. You've seen the trailer for the new Power Rangers reunion thing that they're doing.
Yeah. They're going to do a 30-year thingy. Yeah.
And seeing some of these actors. And I hadn't seen the woman who plays Aisha in quite some time. Some of the others I've seen in random other stuff. But seeing her again, I was like, man. And you're right. Cool. This is a great moment for her where she doesn't speak any dialogue, because it can be tough to deliver some of the cringy stuff they've written for her throughout the rest of this movie. But the look on her face when she gets to be the fierce and unstoppable bear, her face lights up with joy. Love it. Great stuff.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. Rocky, powerful and smart, you are the mighty ape, which is great. He is powerful and smart. He's also kind of a goof. Right. Which in folkloric sense, the ape often is kind of a goof, or the monkey. Right. The Monkey King is often a trickster. Right.
So yeah, no, I buy this one as well.
Billy, you are the wolf, cunning and swift.
Perfect.
And he is cunning. He was the smart one, right? He's grown a lot. I think I mentioned in the first episode what a reticent, overly dorky dork he was. And he's still kind of a dork, but he's also really grown into being a superhero, and I love seeing his confidence here.
Yeah.
Agile Kimberly, light as a feather. You are the crane.
Okay. Now, nothing wrong with this one. I will say, I feel like Kimberly's getting a little bit typecast.
She is. She was the pterodactyl, and then she was the firebird, and now she's the crane.
Yeah. Why always got to fly? What was it? Always got to be the bird. Everybody else gets to, you go from Triceratops to wolf, or you go from, Tyrannosaurus to ape. Like, those aren't really, related, but I'm just always the bird. I mean, fine. There's nothing. I like birds.
The Pink Ranger is often associated with wind and with archery. And I think that's kind of similar to how female heroes in early Final Fantasy were associated with healing and archery. I think about Rosa from Final Fantasy IV. Right. I think about Garnet from Final Fantasy IX. Even though she had a staff sort of thing, it was still a staff sort of thing that shoots wind.
Right.
It's that racket.
Is that an Artemis thing, do you think, or what?
I don't know. Maybe.
Sure.
And then she gets to Adam. Now, I told you about that behind-the-scenes thing. So Johnny Young Bosch is talking to the director, and he says, look, can we do a take or two where Adam isn't real thrilled to be a frog?
Yeah.
And the director says, well, let's do it as written first, and then if we've got time.
Sure.
And then this is what they used. So she says, Adam, what's wrong? And he says, I'm a frog.
And again, while we're praising the acting, this is his moment. This is his moment of the movie, man.
Absolutely. And
looks so dejected.
He does, because who wants to be a frog? Yeah. So in the original script, it was about agility and quickness, which makes sense.
Sure.
But I'm a frog.
I'm a frog.
And her response is delightful, Dulcea. She says, yes, a frog, like the one you kiss, to get a handsome prince. And even though she kisses him here, it's not salacious, right?
No.
They don't linger on it. It's on his forehead. It's very sweet. And his grin after that is adorable.
Again, he goes from absolute dejection to, ooh, I'm the best boy. I will say, I don't hate the handsome prince line, but I don't know. There's a part of me that wishes a little bit, and this is going to be a strange thing to say, but the frog gets a short shrift here. The frog is an awesome animal.
It is.
You could. I feel like you could have split the difference between the two things they wanted to do, because I really love Adam at first not being into it. Kind of like the kids in the Mighty Ducks, right? The duck, it's a stupid animal, right? And I would have preferred a little more Gordon Bombay here of like the frog, man. There are frogs are among some of the deadliest animals on planet Earth. Maybe you don't want to say that in Power Rangers or whatever.
You can kill that fucker, Ivan Ooze.
Going to poison you, dude. maybe they didn't want to go that route. You can lick some frogs and get really high.
Oh, God. Poor Adam and his new Power Rangers Ninjetti animal is getting the monsters high. Oh, God.
But I just, maybe in addition to the Handsome Prince line, throw one thing in there about how cool frogs can be. And not just because they can turn into something else. Come on, man.
They can breathe through their skin. It's weird.
Can you imagine if that was a line? Cheer up, Adam. Frogs can breathe through their skin. Oh, you turned me right around on that one, Dulcea.
Oh, God.
I don't know how much of this episode I'm going to edit. I'm leaving it all in.
All right. Whatever. Fine. You can do a post-credits thing if you want.
No, I'm leaving
Nope. And finally we get to Tommy, who always gets to be the cool guy. And you, Tommy, are the falcon, winged lord of the skies.
Cool.
Which is badass.
Yeah, it's pretty great. I mean, he always gets to have the best animals. And again, I feel like it's kind of honing in on Kimberly's territory a little bit. It's like, man, I can't even be the only bird. Whatever. At least there can be a cute couple up there in the sky together.
Dulcea says, to be in harmony with the sacred animal spirits is to have the force of the Ninjetti. To those who are Ninjetti, anything is possible. And I like this, actually, for a couple reasons. Because on the one hand, it means we can do anything. But there's a trope in fantasy fiction where magic can sometimes just work by force of will and a good imagination. So if you can imagine, getting your powers back, right? And you've got that force of will and you've got a connection to the ether or the magic or the great power, then you can do those things. And I kind of appreciate that. Even though it is kind of a catch-all, this is the most powerful power we've ever had until we have to have the zero crystal, until we have to have the turbo powers, until we go to space.
Mm-hmm.
So it does get undercut, but I appreciate it as a concept.
Yeah.
And then she says, but I'm afraid you must do this alone. Because in the Joseph Campbell tradition, the mentor has to stay behind so the heroes can go forward. And she explains, one step beyond this plateau, and I would begin to age as rapidly as Zordon is now. So, does that mean that Dulcea is also an interdimensional being, but rather than her space being confined to a tube in the command chamber, power chamber center, her space is this region of Phaedos?
Right. No, that's always how I've interpreted it, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe one of the ways that people who were Power Rangers and are now Morphin masters survive long enough to continue their battle against evil is to create for themselves a space in which they can exist to extend their life and then impart their wisdom and choose teenagers with attitude and so on and so forth.
Sure.
She explains, your animals will be your guide, which no, they will not. They hardly do anything with their animals, but that's fine. And then she transforms into a white owl, which is super cool. So was she the white owl ranger thousands of years ago? I sure hope so.
Yeah. I mean, in our headcanon, she is.
We transition back to Angel Grove. Fred has come home. He's looking for his father because he's been watching the news too, I guess. And he goes into the kitchen where the Ooze is on the counter and he freaks out and he runs out. We cut now to Ivan Ooze and Goldar in the construction zone. Ivan says, I forgot how slow parents are. I thought my ectomorphicons would be dug up by now. And what? No. Why? No. You just got them out there with pickaxes. There's no way these things are going to be dug out in less than a month. But fine, whatever.
Also, not only did Zordon bury Ivan Ooze, 3 feet beneath the dirt at a construction site in the middle of town, apparently he buried his giant monster things right there next to him.
Sure.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
What the hell? It's terrible.
We could have destroyed some of this stuff, but...
Right. Or at least spread them out, put one in this ocean out in the Atlantic, one in Antarctica, and one of them can be right in the middle of town.
He does this weirdly cruel thing where he makes a parent dance.
That's odd. Yeah, it is. It's actually still kind of funny. I mean, if you get beyond the cruelty of it. if you allow yourself to be a 90s kid that's just laughing at a parent having to do a silly dance.
The Tangu warriors arrive. This was a stunt where they put a bunch of stunt actors in the Tangu suits and then lowered them on a giant crane thing.
Oh.
It's kind of intense. So they had them in harnesses and just strung them up to this thing and lowered them down. It's a big lattice work. And so the reason there's this cloud right above where they're being lowered from is to hide the thing they were attached to.
Yeah.
Ivan Ooze asks for a report. Remember, they've just flown back from a distant planet.
Yeah.
And they say, it couldn't have gone better. We threw one off a mountain. We threw one into a raging river.
No, these two guys, I want to highlight these guys are great. I don't know what's going on with the voice on the guy that you were just doing the line for. I don't know what decision he made here, who this was that they left it in. It's just brilliant because, the first one who talks has the kind of voice you might think this alien bird type creature would, right? Just, couldn't have gone better, that kind of, you're like, okay, yeah. And then like you were doing, the second guy has no alien bird. I actually looked this up because I thought maybe it was a quote from something, because it really does sound like he's doing a line from an old movie when he says, tossed one of them off a mountain, one into a raging river. Like he's almost Matthew McConaughey for some reason, and it's never explained, and it's just what this particular Tangu warrior sounds like, and it's one of my favorite random ass parts of this movie. Like, why did he say that like that? And who cares? And he's also just blatantly lying, right? And there,
right,
which is hilarious.
Right.
But and then just the visual of it, like we had the Power Rangers dead to rights, tossed one off a mountain, one into a raging river. Like, what are you talking about? Love it.
So Ivan Ooze assumes that means they've all been destroyed. And one of them goes, well, not exactly. And he goes, wait, you didn't kill them? So first he said destroyed, and now he says killed.
He does.
So they explain that they were attacked by a person with these sticks. And Ivan Ooze only needs the hint of sticks on Phaedos to say, hang on, did they make this whistling sound? And they explain it was more like fingers on a chalkboard. And he says, Dulcea, that miserable, manipulating, loathsome she-devil of a witch.
He gets all the best lines. He gets to say things like loathsome.
And then he zaps all the Tangu warriors and destroys them, because that's what you do when your underlings don't perform. You force choke them to death or whatever.
Oh, just brutal. I had just fallen in love with this guy and his random accent. Now he's gone. I need to know his entire life story. Like, this is the Power Rangers fan fiction I need to know, because we know the end point now of what happened to these two guys, like these two Tangu warriors who apparently were the ones who had to report. So I need to know like their entire life story leading up to that moment where they were so unceremoniously destroyed by Ivan Ooze.
So Ivan Ooze sets us up a timeline here. My ectomorphicon titans need to be unearthed by sundown, and you can see the arm of one of them, because he fears the Power Rangers are coming right back, because they can teleport if they get the power.
Fair enough.
But how are they going to unearth them by sundown?
Right.
We're going to need more jackhammers, Ivan.
Yeah.
Proper foot protection.
Dave.
Poor Dave. Taking shit from a teenage bully.
I know, right? I got bullied by a teenager today. It's the worst.
All right, so we go back to Phaedos. It looks like they've spent the night. The sun is coming up. They all look at the monolith in the distance, and we zoom in on Tommy. And he says, it's time. Perfect delivery, JDF. No notes.
No, yeah.
We fast forward a bit. We're in the jungle. There's a little bit of banter, and then Tommy says, we got to keep moving, guys. Zordon's time is running out.
Quit.
No, dude, quit it.
Yeah, we've done it.
This is the script not trusting children to remember that Zordon's dying.
Right.
And you just don't need to do that. And kids are better at putting things together than we tend to remember once we become adults. Then we swap back to the construction zone again, and it's still early afternoon there, even though the Power Rangers spent the night on Fatos. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I wondered it because it really just seems like an afternoon has passed by the time
Right.
they return, where they feel like they've been gone for days. But
Right.
yeah, again, whatever.
So Fred finds his father at the construction zone. He can't snap him out of it. There's some shouting by the villains, and they really are starting to get these monstrous Zord robot mecha things unearthed. Ectomorphicons, thank you, yes. It's just a Zord run by Ooze and Lightning rather than the Morphin grid.
Right.
We get their names. They are Hornitor and Scorpitron. So one's a scorpion robot and one's a hornet robot.
Thing.
Titan. And then Ooze says, once they're up and running, spreading ooze through the world, I will annihilate Angel Grove. And then the universe!
Yeah, wow.
Yes, that's a heck of a jump.
From
The world back down to Angel Grove, all the way out to the universe is a lot, dude.
Yeah.
And it goes to show that he was thinking ahead earlier. How do you run the world? How do you get help running the world? Now it's just destroy.
Yeah.
All right, fine.
Just break stuff.
Then we get a really cool fight scene back on Phaedos.
Yeah, this is good.
So they are walking through the jungle, and they find this dinosaur graveyard, bunch of bones. There's lots of scratches on these bones. Some of them are broken. There must have been some kind of fight here. And then apparently the jungle has necromantic powers because one of them comes to life.
Yeah.
Adam does get to say, "Welcome to Jurassic Park" at one point. That's cute.
Nice little moment. That's cute.
I do have to wonder how a bone dinosaur roars without lungs.
Yeah, sure. Right. No, magic.
Yeah.
We're good. I'm good.
Same way Tangu fly through space.
Right.
And so they start defending themselves from this bone dinosaur. They're still not Power Rangers yet. They still can't just punch a bone dinosaur and destroy it.
Right.
So they got to be clever. There's a lot of running away, trying to distract it from their friends. Aisha gets not quite trampled at one point, and then Rocky hits it with a stick, and they're doing lots of flippy dippies and runarounds. And then we come to the part that I don't like.
Okay.
Kim runs away from it.
Mm-hmm.
She's hiding in this ribcage thing, and what she says is, "Tommy! Tommy!" And this is what I was saying earlier, where they tend to put Kimberly in the damsel in distress trope, and I don't like that. She's a superhero too. I get that she's scared, right? They don't have their powers. It's tough to deal with this, but why do we have to scream for Tommy? She does it in the show when she leaves and Kat arrives and takes on the Pink Ranger powers. She'll do it too, and it's at least partially to emphasize that Tommy is the coolest hero of the cool heroes, but it also puts them in a position of being the least cool, the least capable hero of the heroes. And I don't like that for the girl in pink.
Yeah.
I'm glad we agree.
Right. No, I agree. I think we've mentioned that before with lots of characters. It's frustrating. It's unnecessary. It was incredibly common, especially in the 90s. And it's nice to see it becoming less and less of a thing.
And I'll tell you what, having watched the movie for our podcastiness, I've ducked back into Power Rangers news a little bit, which is how I heard about the 30th anniversary thing. Right. But also, the next season of Power Rangers, the Red Ranger leader is going to be a girl.
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that. That's pretty cool.
And it's just a color, and it doesn't matter, but the Red Ranger is going to be a girl, and that's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
If they had the next Pink Ranger be a boy, that'd be pretty slick, too. That
would be interesting, yeah.
Because the color pink doesn't necessarily mean feminine. Whatever. We've had this discussion. I'll move along. The bone, the necromantic bone dinosaur zombie thing is defeated when Tommy runs up a tree and flips up onto its back, and then he finds the linchpin, the keystone vertebrae, and pulls it. No, what he does actually is he says, "Yo, fossil head, I've got a bone to pick with you," and then he pulls it out.
I was going to say, you think he defeated the bone dinosaur by removing that vertebrae. I think he defeated him by unleashing a just absolutely absurd string of puns. You only gave us the final one. He calls him Bonehead in there. It's like 5 or 6 of them in a row. But yeah, he ends on, "Yo, fossil head, I've got a bone to pick with you." Brilliant. No notes.
Oh, God. So the Power Rangers are relieved. They help Tommy to his feet. And then Rocky gets the last line here where he says, maybe we should get out of here before he decides to pull himself together.
That one's not bad. That one's a little more subtle. Get it, hey, guys? Like, that must be like he should do a look around like, oh, come on. That was better than bone to pick with you.
That's a good one, guys. Together. Come on. Little credit.
Nothing?
I'm the ape. I'm the funny one.
You guys laughed at Jurassic Park and bone to pick with you, but all right.
Whatever. Fine. We cut back to the warehouse. The Ectomorphicon Titans are being put together, so they did make good time. They dug him up. They got him out of there. They got him to the warehouse.
Sure.
And now they're being infused with Ooze, and so because that's what powers them up. And then Ivan Ooze says, "Parents of Angel Grove, you have completed my Ectomorphicons. But frankly, I'm sick of your ugly faces and your dull personalities. You will return to the construction site and leap to your doom." Which is kind of horrifying.
Yeah, it's messed up, dude. I love it. Ivan Ooze rules. In a horrible kind of way.
In a horrible kind of way, yeah. We cut back to the Power Rangers. They have reached the monolith. This is another cool, big built set. I like it a lot. There's a big gate thingy. There are these stone statues set in recesses. There's a water pool off to the side. They get up to it. Tommy says, all right, I'm the cool leader guy. You guys stay here. I'll put my life at risk. And he goes up and he touches one of the stone statues. Nothing happens. He turns around and that's when they come to life.
Yeah.
There's some flippy, look out for the sword thingies. And then Tommy says, Ninjetti! And all their hoods come up.
Right. Which is not
cool.
As satisfying as it's Morphin time.
Right.
But it's fine.
It's fine. And they, like we said, the costumes look great. They fight the rock statues, and I really like this fight because they still don't have their full powers. So
Right.
they're not strong enough to just punch a rock in half. They've got to beat them with trickery.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of running around trying to figure out what to do. Oh, these guys are strong. And then they start working together. And there's this bit where Rocky jumps down on one of them to try to help Adam, and now he's hanging on by a vine. And Adam eventually kicks the rock statue into a pool of water or maybe acid because it destroys this thing immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, there's, like you said, it's a lot of getting them to hurt each other or getting them to fall from high distances, and it's great. Very, very clever, good choreography. I like this fight a lot, and it holds up.
Tommy and Kim push a boulder over on one.
Yeah.
I think Adam gets to say, ever play Leapfrog? And then, hey, what is this? Pick on the frog day?
Yeah. Okay.
Fair enough.
Sure.
They do a vine, I jump down while you hang on, so you get out of the way, and they chop each other in half.
Right. Sure.
Rocky gets to do the Jean-Claude Van Damme splits to avoid a spear.
It's a good stunt, too. The stuntman really did that. Just jumped up and did the splits on either side. Yeah.
I think he really did that. Because a lot of these actors are really involved in martial arts and gymnastics and such.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So they were able to do some of the stunts. And so in that interview, he says, I did that specifically for Jean-Claude Van Damme. And then he brought his kid to the movie, and I got to tell him that.
Oh, that's so cool. That's really dope. And that's even a cooler moment. And I always love that part, and it's still dope. But that's even better. Nice.
So they defeat the last one when Tommy does the Ninjetti's corkscrew kick.
Yeah. There's the one really silly bit of wire work nonsense, but even still, you're like, give him one.
It's Power Rangers, sure, why not?
Come
on. It's not unlike wrestling. Like the people's elbow doesn't make any sense either.
Right. Again, yeah, you gotta go with the big, flary, ridiculous finishing maneuver.
So when they defeat the last rock statue, the gate in the monolith opens up, and this rock altar pushes forward, and it's got this big golden power coin with all of their 6 Ninjetti totem animals, spirit animals in there. And now do you know what time it is, Drew?
Is it possibly Morphin time?
It is Morphin time, but in the gentlest way. These light animal Zord versions of their creatures come out and fly around them, and the music swells, and then suddenly,
it's a good music piece.
Whoosh!
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in their old suits, but with the new power coins in their chests, so they've got the classic suits on, but with the padded armor stuff, which I think looked cool, but people on message boards, when in the 90s, told me they hated it. fine,
They
whatever.
were dumb and wrong, so it's fine.
Yeah. And they look great. And then Rocky says, and this one feels organic. He says, hang on, Zordon. We're on our way.
Yeah, that one I don't mind. It wouldn't feel so bad if there weren't like 12 right before it.
Right.
Reminding us. But that I feel like, Rocky would actually say.
Our last shot on Phaedos is Dulcea in owl form watching them. And she says, good luck, Rangers.